Hey guys, Matthew here once again with a follow-up video on the PoE 2 with my own gameplay footage. So, as was mentioned, we did play the game for about 4 or 5 hours and recorded the whole thing. And by that I mean recorded about 3 hours and then stopped, tried to start uploading onto the USB with a 50 gigabyte file, and that took 2 hours. Finally got that done, definitely didn't have any room for any more. So the last hour and a half or so of the playthrough is not recorded, and as such I can't give you the last bit of Act 2. But yeah, I did get through to the end of Act 2, and it took about, 4 hours or so to get to level 27, end of Act 2, while exploring everything, and you'll see it all here for yourself. This is the only look at the passive tree I'm going to give you there. Apparently we're not supposed to show you too much, and there's not really a huge amount for you to go through anyway. Things are going to change, things are going to be different, but for the most part, passive tree is basically damage and some sorts of utility and stuff. It doesn't really seem to have any life, so that is an interesting point about the tree itself. But back to the game. Basically, as you can see, it is actually quite stunning. The environment on it really does help you feel immersed in whatever it is you're doing. Like, I particularly noticed that in that field of wheat and stuff, it was pretty immersive. A lot of these zones really give you a certain distinct feel among them compared to different zones, and you can kind of very much remember being in them and what happened in them. And it is, I guess we could say it's pretty good world building compared to previous versions of Path of Exile. One previous version, you know what I mean? Yeah, I picked a ranger, and I'm using lightning stuff and using a dodge roll and getting used to the WASD, getting used to pressing flasks. What you'll end up getting is sometimes some quest rewards where you create your own skill gem, and once you do that, you can pick whatever you want within the level of that skill gem, and seemingly you can pick from everything that's available to you. Currently, all we could pick from was sorceress and ranger and warrior, none of which really applies to me, I don't think, the way I was building my character anyway. And you do need requirements for stats to be able to use the other skills, and my int was low, my strength was pretty low, just barely enough to wear maybe a couple of pieces of gear that needed some more strength or int. But you do need stats for your gear, you do need stats for your gems, and then also for support gems. As you link more support gems, your stat requirement will go up too. By this point, this is somewhere like mid Act 2, actually still near the start of Act 2, I had Herald of Thunder, and Herald of Thunder seemed to just start to carry my gameplay. So even by like level 20, 19 it is, yeah, even by around this level, you can start to get combos and setups that you're gonna start to feel pretty reminiscent of PoE 1, where you're just blasting through and annihilating things. At least that's kind of how it feels like here, and I don't see any reason that it wouldn't change. It just takes a bit to gear up. So you have seen some plenty of gameplay. It's a bit slower, it's a bit more methodical, and it's absolutely intended to be that way. This is going to be much more of a Dark Souls style playthrough of an ARPG, because they are trying to put the action into the ARPG genre once again, and the combat is a lot more meaningful. It is a bit more thought-provoking, it is a bit slower, but I think at the high end, from what I can tell, you're still going to be kind of a zoomer if you want to be kind of a zoomer. You put on some movement speed boots, you get some attack speed, you get some good combos and some good damage, and you can be running around blasting packs. At least I think that's where it's going to be leading, and that's how it's going to be going. But so far, for all the boss fights, you do, for the most part, have to dodge things and learn mechanics and end up figuring out some intricacy of the boss to then beat the boss. So most boss fights you might be dying once or twice. I actually very rarely died on boss fights, and you can see that in all my boss fights I come close to dying. So I think that's simply because I did pick up a few good pieces of gear. I've got some rare items on, and I'm kind of out stat checking the things that are supposed to kill me. Which means that, it's going to be possible to do that as well. I don't want to give you all of the boss fights and all of the sort of spoilers there. That just then was the Act 1 end campaign boss. and yep, does some stuff. This is one of the side quest passive, not passive, but side quest bosses that kind of gives you a bit of a power up. Once you kill it, you get 10 cold res permanently, I'm pretty sure. So the side bosses do have their own purpose, but you could, in theory, just run past and not have to find them and stuff. But yeah, they are all pretty cool. They all do have their own purpose, own distinct mechanics, and things you should try and learn to dodge, things you should try and play around. It takes a bit, and it's certainly something to get used to with the dodge roll, with the WASD. You can see as I'm moving around, I am pointing with my mouse where I want to shoot. That certainly takes a while to get used to, since, you know, in current PoE, you're just like clicking somewhere and you lock on, you go somewhere. But with this system, you will be like moving your character and at the same time moving your mouse and trying to lock onto a target. So plenty of times I'd be missing, sometimes just whiffing altogether, and still getting entirely used to the system. But by the end of the playthrough, it felt very intuitive, and WASD was, well, as I've already said, I think this game is built for it. They tried out WASD on one situation where they were trying to build it for the mercenary, and then they went, this is good, and everything else feels like it should have it too, and then basically rebuilt the game for its attacks, for its defenses, its dodges around WASD. And don't think of it as like some scary thing that you know won't get used to, or that'll feel unnatural in RPG. I'm telling you that it's built around it, and as such it's going to feel very natural and should be pretty clean. The only real issue I see is that your left hand becomes pretty heavily taxed with performance and with actions, because you do have to then use all kinds of things. You've got your WASD, you've got your skills, you've got your flasks. I think you're probably going to end up trying to put some extra things somewhere else, like on your mouse perhaps. You got your left and right click, those are already definitely actions, but maybe even on your side mouse buttons and shit like that. It didn't feel too bad by the end, like I got used to it and I had enough buttons to press for everything I wanted to, I think, but it would have paid off to have something else on my mouse as well, I think. But yeah, the take-home message is really don't be scared of it and don't knock it till you try it. And that goes for pretty much the whole game. But the one thing you're going to have to do is really try and not compare it to the Path of Exile 1 gameplay, and just take it for what it is, as a stand-alone game. Like, pretend it's just a whole new game, and you have to learn it as a whole new game. If you go in with a PoE 1 mentality and you go in with a PoE 1 playstyle, you're going to suffer. And it seems to be the case that the people that have had less experience with PoE 1 feel more in tune with this game and more comfortable to learn it from the ground up, as opposed to the people that are coming in with a huge PoE 1 base and just go, yep, PoE 1, but more. They're struggling a bit more. So that was certainly the case for me for a bit. Took a bit of adjusting. Thought it started to get good. And yeah, I think I ended up having a pretty damn good time, even though by the time I got to Act 2, I was actually really nauseous from my plane's travels. It seemed to kick in a bit later, and I was just kind of going through the motions, hoping I could get to the end of Act 2 or the end of the playthrough and just get it over with, because I was feeling really terrible. All that said, I was still trying my best to have fun, and the zones, and especially Act 2, by the time we got to Act 2, was pretty damn cool. There's a lot of cool stuff there to see. You're on some traveling caravan, lots of different cool zones. The last few bosses of Act 2 that I got to were pretty crazy, so I don't have that footage, but it's just as well. I think it'd be better to see it for yourself for the first time. I didn't get to see the actual end of Act 2, and I'm sure that's going to be crazy. And then the real insane part is this is only the first couple acts, and so far we've seen some absolutely stunning zones, stunning bosses, and really can't wait to see what else is out there and what the whole campaign is like. And you are potentially, if you want to be, pretty invested in the story. It's easier to feel immersed in the world, and it's easier to care about the whole plot line. So hopefully that'll be a good thing too. Unfortunately, yep, delayed. Hopefully by the end of the year. you know, keep it on your watch list, and hopefully we get to sink our teeth into it soon. So I'm just going to leave you guys with a few minutes of raw footage of some of the gameplay, just so you can see what it's like, the world, the sound, the actions, and all that. So thank you very much for watching, and see you guys next time.
Mechanism has been destroyed. We must press on.
Come,
This is going to hurt.
meet a king!
Outsider, we fight.
Sand, take you! Bow! Sand, take you! Relay!
Don't do this. Stop. Just wait. Surely we can. No!
You have been sentenced to death.
Great Wolf, thank you, bastard! This is going to hurt.
Get down here! I will finish what I started. Get down here!
Fury! This is going to hurt.
Thunder!